And moving right along, we have some of your mail to respond to. Alex from Ontario writes, I'm a new immigrant to Canada. Could you please tell me about my rights as a Canadian citizen? That's a good question, Alex. To start off, let's talk about rights. Rights are civil liberties that are so important that they are guaranteed by the state in a document called a Bill or Charter of Rights. Here to tell us about those rights is Canada's own Doctor of Rhyme and Reason. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rhyme Minister.
Thanks, Blake. Alex, that is a good question, and the answer? Well, it goes a little something like this. In Canada and in Ontario, we have a number of important rights, you know. They came into place when we wrote the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Human Rights Code. So listen up, cause it's important to see about your rights in this place and how to use them properly. And whoa, you got rights, whoa, get to know them. First thing I have to say in the song I wrote is that in Canada you have the right to vote. You can vote for the local government in your city or town, and again when provincial and federal elections come around. So you have a say about your representation in your city and your province and even your nation. And if you look at all the candidates and you're still like no one, next time you even have the right to run. And whoa, you got rights, whoa, get to know them. Other rights too that I want to bring up, like legal rights and rights about languages and such. But let me start with the freedom of religion, of conscience, of thought, belief, and of opinion. This means personal freedom and freedom of speech. And don't forget about the rights to equality. If there are times when you think your rights are not being met, you have the right to assemble in peaceful protest or form groups that can associate freely, so you can make sure your rights are respected completely. And whoa, you got rights, whoa, get to know them.
Well, that about sums up our legal rights as guaranteed to us by the government. But we also have responsibilities, the values and practices that we should do our best to follow in our day-to-day lives in Canada. Isn't that right, Rhyme Minister?
That's true, Blake. With any kind of power comes responsibility, and this is true with rights. So listen to me, when you're a citizen here, you obey the laws, and you should take part in the democratic process. There are a few things that you need to respect, like our 2 official languages and our multicultural heritage. Remember the freedom of speech that I mentioned before? There is something I should add that I should not ignore. Though you can express your opinions all day and night, you should still respect other people's freedoms and rights. And whoa, you got responsibilities, whoa, you get to practice that. One last thing, one final note, remember that you should get out and vote. That's why I am here to stand up and shout. If you don't like the people in government, you can kick them out. So on election night, be sure to exercise your democratic rights. There is a parliament here and you get to choose it, but democracy only works if you use it. Oh, you got rights, whoa, get to know them, whoa, you got responsibilities, whoa, you get to practice them.
Live from Ontario, it's the Majority Minority Show, where we explain the differences between provincial, majority, and minority governments.
Majority, minority, what's the difference between you and me? Minority, majority, ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Oh, yeah.
Hi there, I'm a majority government.
And I'm a minority government. Although we are both formed after an election in Ontario, and may seem the same, we have some significant differences.
I'm called a majority because the voters of Ontario have elected one party to a majority, that is, more than 50% of the seats in the Ontario legislature.
I'm called a minority because I consist of several different parties, where no one party has more than 50% of the seats.
It is important to note that I am a more prominent form of government in Ontario. In fact, most governments in Ontario are usually majorities.
Yes, it's true. I am much more rare and special. Only once in a while does a minority government make an appearance in Ontario.
When elected, I can usually do whatever I want. It is easier for me to pass the bills and make the laws that I want, and I usually do not have to worry about the opposition defeating me.
When I'm elected, I have to be a little more careful, and I often have to work with all of the parties in order to make laws and pass bills. If the opposition parties decide to vote against me, I could be out the door. So in order to prevent this, the government must rely on the support of other parties. This is required each time a bill is passed. It's even possible that the leaders of two parties will discuss forming a coalition, so the government knows it has a majority when it passes a bill.
But I am strong and decisive.
I exist on compromise.
I usually last for a full term. 4 years.
Often, I'll only last for a shorter period of time, say 1 or 2 years.
I have a question. Why do minority governments often only last a year or two?
Good question. Well, it's a long story. A minority government that does not have more than 50% of the seats in the legislature has no choice but to depend on other parties for the balance of power. Because different parties have different ideas on how to govern, it can be difficult to agree on everything. If enough members of provincial parliament disagree with or vote against the party in power, the minority government can lose the confidence of the House, and power can change hands to another party, or to a coalition of parties. Sometimes there is even another election.
Well, that's all the time we have for the Majority Minority Show tonight. Thanks for coming. See you next time.
Diddly-doo, twiddly-diddly-dee, doodly-doodly-doodly-doo. Garbage! Look at this garbage! I'm so angry, I'm going to write a letter to the federal government.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. Garbage is not a federal responsibility.
Well, in that case, I'm going to write a letter to the provincial government.
Actually, garbage is not a provincial responsibility either. It's a municipal responsibility. Canada has 3 main levels of government, and they are each responsible for different areas.
All these different levels of government. It's so confusing. I just want to know, who does what?
Who does what?
I really want to know.
Who does what? That's what I'm gonna show ya. I'm not just talking to you, but in fact to all ya. Gonna explain about the federal government in Ottawa. Important, they're in charge of our national security. This includes defense and the military. Canada's often dealing with other nations, so they are in charge of international relations. You say you wanna become a Canadian? Then go talk to citizenship and immigration. They're also in charge of the money and the banking, and next time you write a letter, it's them you should be thanking, for they also take care of the postal service. You wanna learn more? I've only scratched the surface. My curious friend, keep on listening up. Gonna tell you more about who does what. Now the provinces, they are a different situation. Got their own responsibilities as a part of this nation. Because this country is so big and tall, it's too much for the federal government to take care of it all. So they split some things up and give it to Ontario. Schools and education are provincial, don't you know? Dig a little deeper and you will see that healthcare is also a provincial responsibility. And the social assistance and natural resources, you know, energy, wildlife, and of course all the fishes. Well, we're at it. Say you want to drive a car, you'll need a license from the province or you won't get far. You want to know more? Well, you're in luck, cause I'm gonna keep talking about who does what. Who does what?
I really want to know.
Who does what? That's what I'm gonna show ya. Who does what? Alright, moving along, getting to the nitty-gritty. Municipal covers the towns and the cities, so municipal deals with things that are local, like your library or even snow removal. There's also public transit to get you place to place. Listen up, kid, I'm gonna pick up the pace. You wanna build a new house so you can live it to the max. You'll need the building permit, you'll pay property tax, you'll need water. What about the garbage you produce? These things all live under municipal's roof. You got me going, so I won't give up. Still got more to say about who does what. Now, some more responsibilities that we shouldn't forget, which are shared between 3 levels of government. Let's take transportation. I bet you didn't know that there are federal, provincial, and municipal roads. There's also federal, provincial, and municipal laws, and 3 levels of police to enforce them all. Environment, parks, tourism, there's another 3. There are many more examples that you can see, but I can't talk forever, so I'm summing it all up. You should have a better idea about who does what. Who does what?
I really want to know.
Who does what? That's what I'm gonna show ya. Who does what?
Now I think I know.
Who does what? That is what I showed ya. Who does what?
Who does what?
Who what? That is what I showed ya.
Who does what?
Does what? Does what? What? What?
Who does